Paloma had always been a dreamer, marrying Richard at a very young age, at 19. Since then, her life revolved around home and marriage. Although she loved Richard and felt proud to be his wife, the routine began to feel monotonous. Richard worked on an oil platform, which meant he spent 28 days on board and 28 days at home. At first, Paloma felt proud of her husband's work, but as the months passed, loneliness began to weigh on her. During the days when Richard was away, Paloma felt increasingly isolated. The routine became dull and lonely. She missed his company and the excitement that marriage promised. To fill this void, she began going out more with friends and attending parties in the neighboring town. It was at one of these parties that she met Lucas, a charismatic and fun young man who quickly caught her attention. Lucas was everything Paloma desired at that moment: young, full of life, and carefree. They started talking and soon discovered an instant chemistry between them. Paloma knew she should keep her distance, but the attraction was irresistible. On the days when Richard was at sea, Paloma began secretly meeting with Lucas. At first, they were just casual encounters, dinners, walks in the park, and shared laughter. As time went on, these meetings became more frequent and intense. Paloma found herself living a second life. While Richard was away, she was free to be whoever she wanted alongside Lucas. To justify her prolonged absences when she was with Lucas, Paloma lied to him, saying that she worked on an engineering project on the oil platform where Richard was. She made up stories about long shifts and how she needed to be away for weeks at a time. Lucas believed Paloma's lies and supported her in her professional difficulties. On the days when Richard was home, Paloma did her best to avoid any contact with Lucas. She became a devoted wife, preparing romantic dinners and enjoying every moment with Richard. But when he left for the sea again, Paloma quickly returned to the life she had built with Lucas. The meetings with Lucas were filled with passion and adventure. They explored new places together, danced until late at night, and shared secrets under the stars. Every moment with him was an escape from reality. Paloma felt more alive than ever before. But there was always a shadow of guilt hanging over her, the awareness that she was deceiving not only Lucas but also her husband. One night, while out with Lucas at a bar in the neighboring town, Paloma received a message from Richard asking where she was. Her heart raced. She quickly replied with a generic message about being busy at work. But as she typed, she felt a tightening in her conscience. The weight of the lie was becoming unbearable. "You're thinking too much," Lucas said as he noticed her worried expression. "Let's have some fun tonight. You deserve it." He pulled her to dance and tried to cheer her up, but the guilt didn't fade away. As months passed, the cycles of living a double life began to wear on Paloma emotionally. She felt torn between two worlds, one where she was a devoted wife and another where she was a passionate lover. The tension increased every time Richard came home. He noticed subtle changes in her behavior, moments of distraction or absent-minded looks. One day, while alone at home waiting for Richard to return from work, Paloma decided that she needed to end her double life. She didn't want to live this lie anymore. The weight of guilt was becoming unbearable. But when Richard came home with flowers and a smile on his face, all her plans fell apart. "I miss you so much when I'm away," he said as he wrapped his arms around her. The sincere love in Richard's eyes made her heart ache even more. She knew she was about to break this man. In the following days, Paloma struggled with conflicting feelings while trying to maintain normal appearances at home. But whenever she thought about Lucas and the happy moments they shared together, a wave of sadness would wash over her heart. How could she give up that part of herself? Finally, during a romantic dinner she prepared for Richard after a long absence from him, Paloma decided to be honest about her feelings. She could no longer live like this. She needed to tell him the truth about her meetings with Lucas. But when she started talking about her feelings of loneliness and frustration in their marriage, something inside her hesitated. The thought of hurting Richard seemed unbearable. He didn't deserve that. So she chose to omit the complete truth, only mentioning that she had missed him during his absences. Richard smiled understandingly and held her hand. "I know it's hard being away from each other for so long. Let's make this work." His words cut even deeper. Isabel realized that she was trapped in a web of lies without knowing how to escape. Life continued in this painful cycle for several more months until everything unexpectedly reached a climax when David decided to visit the neighboring town to see how things were going at the gym where Isabel trained regularly. He wanted to better understand her world. When he first entered the gym and saw Lucas animatedly talking to Isabel after an intense class, his heart sank as he realized something was wrong. Until that fateful moment he had no idea about their secret relationship. The scene before him was devastating. David stood frozen for a moment as he watched them laughing together. Something inside him burst like a popped balloon, letting out all hope he still had. The truth finally came out when David confronted Isabel that night at home. He needed to know everything, every detail about the lies told over months. The revelation of the affair completely shook their relationship. Richard was devastated upon discovering all the truth about his wife's betrayals. And so ended another story marked by betrayal, an account of how impulsive choices can lead to the destruction of precious bonds without any real hope for reconciliation or happy endings in sight. In the months following David's discovery of betrayal, Paloma realized how difficult it would be to maintain her double life without being discovered again. She knew that she had crossed a dangerous line by deceiving not only David but also Lucas, a man for whom genuine feelings had also developed during their secret meetings. While trying to cope with the emotional consequences of previous revelation, Paloma often found herself thinking about ways in which she could have avoided this complicated situation from the start. The moral dilemma weighed heavily on her shoulders like a heavy anchor. Every time she looked into David's eyes, she felt guilty for all the lies told during those 2 years, lies carefully constructed to protect her heart but now threatening everything she had built until then. During this turbulent period, Paloma decided to continue keeping in touch with Lucas despite growing difficulties between them. She knew it might be better to end everything, but something inside still longed for those exciting moments together, moments where she could be free without judgment or heavy expectations placed upon her. Thus began secret messages between them again, meeting furtively whenever David was away, each encounter turning into a risky dance between true love and unfulfilled desire. With each new meeting, Paloma tried justifying her actions to herself, saying that this emotional freedom was necessary, even though deep down she knew how wrong it all was. And so their clandestine meetings continued, a vicious cycle fueled by adrenaline from secrecy, making it increasingly difficult to resist growing attraction between them. One day, in the midst of that clandestine routine, Lucas suggested taking a quick getaway for a weekend out of town. The idea seemed too tempting to resist. Initially hesitant, thinking about promises made to David, she soon gave in to temptation, feeling alive again just imagining being away from daily obligation. When they arrived at their destination, the small cabin by the lake, everything seemed perfect. They spent hours exploring nature together, laughing freely while swimming in cool lake waters under warm sunshine. In that relaxed atmosphere, Paloma finally let go of all worries, allowing herself fully immerse into this new romance. The nights were filled with warm laughter accompanied by deep conversations under bright stars reflecting their hopes and future dreams. But even in this idyllic setting, a part of her knew that this happiness couldn't last forever. Reality always patiently waiting just beyond horizon, ready to crash down upon them when they least expected it. And so they continued living this temporary illusion, fully aware of risks involved while both fought against conflicting feelings growing within them. As time went by, Paloma realized how deeply emotionally involved she had become with Lucas, each shared kiss carrying unspoken promises never voiced but always intensely felt between them. Yet there always loomed that shadow over them, the awareness of deceit perpetuated against David, complicating everything further while they tried navigating through turbulent waters of this new relationship built upon fragile foundation. And so another month passed, filled with secret adventures hidden from prying eyes of society, while Paloma internally battled moral dilemmas growing ever more intense within herself. She knew that living this lie indefinitely wasn't possible, but also feared losing that special connection created with Lucas during all those magical moments spent together far away from daily obligation. As days passed, Paloma faced difficult decisions ahead where everything could drastically change depending on choices made in crucial moments. And so they continued their intertwined lives filled with unspoken tensions weighing heavily between them until reaching point where decisions made could irrevocably change everything.